Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and today I want to talk about legendary artist Frank Thorne. Before I get into that, just a couple quick announcements here. I'm still running a contest for when I get to 250 subscribers. If you haven't entered that, I've got the link here down below, and I'm giving away a mystery box, so just go to the video linked below, subscribe, and then leave a comment telling me what you want, kind of videos you want to see and what you would like in your mystery box, and you'll be entered to win. So I just wanted to pass that along. Today, as I mentioned, I want to talk about Frank Thorne. I don't have any comics to show off here. I do have some really cool stuff from Frank Thorne that I'll be talking about momentarily, but a lot of the stuff that I really like from him, he didn't actually do the cover, and it's just awkward to hold it up. But as some of you may know, I'm recording this here on March 8th. Frank Thorne unfortunately passed away earlier today, or yesterday, at the age of 90. And I just wanted to talk about his legacy a little bit. One thing that's interesting is that he was 90. Now, Frank Thorne, his work really became popular in the 70s, and so I always, in my head, think of him as part of this new wave of, hot new artists coming up in the 70s. But actually, when he started doing some of those works that he's most famous for in the 70s, he was already in his 40s. His first professional comics work was done way back in 1948 when he was a teenager. And a lot of his sort of work in his younger days, even in his 20s and 30s, was done in comic strips, but he was also doing some comic book work for companies like Dell that are not, collected as much today. So a lot of his earlier stuff, even into his prime, was just not mainstream stuff that we as comic book fans would be aware. So when he comes on the scene in the early 70s, he's got this very distinctive, great style that I love. It's really right in my wheelhouse, as I talked a lot about on this channel. It's sort of got some cartoony elements. He has a thick outer line. He's just got a great design aesthetic. Of course, he's most famous for drawing beautiful women, particularly Red Sonja. My favorite works from Frank Thorne. As much as I appreciate his art on Red Sonja, I found the stories in that series to not be so great. The series that I really like him on is actually Tomahawk, Son of Tomahawk. The covers are all by Joe Kubert, and they're great, but Frank Thorne doing the interior art there. He also cropped up in some weird places, like he did the cover for Our Fighting Forces number 149. I'm a big fan of the Loser series in there. He didn't do actually that much mainstream work. Red Sonja in the mid to late 70s was kind of his main thing. He did a lot of work outside of mainstream comics, did work for like some adult magazines later on and become very popular through that. But it's just it's a real loss to the comics community. Another thing I wanted to mention is he's got a really important legacy in the cosplay community and in the convention scene in the 70s. When he was at his sort of height of his drawing Red Sonja, he would cosplay as a character called the Wizard, and he used to do this show. I think it's called the Wizard and Sonja Show. If you go on YouTube, you can find recordings from the 70s of him doing this. It was like a single act play almost, where he was playing this wizard, and then he'd have a cosplayer dressed as Red Sonja who would come out, and they'd have these sort of scripted interactions. I think the ones that you can see online are actually Wendy Pini. Before she created ElfQuest, she was a Red Sonja cosplayer and was really famous in the comics community as a Red Sonja cosplayer, and she did a lot of work with Frank Thorne. During that time period, I know that he mentored a lot of up-and-coming creators, which brings me to the last book that I want to mention, because it's a book I don't have. It's incredibly obscure. If I had it, I would show it to you. I can't find it. I'm still looking. But one of the other women that cosplayed as Red Sonja in the 70s also became a comic book creator, and her name was Wendy Snow. And in 1976, she self-published a little black and white comic called The Books of Zomzantzia. And The Books of Zomzantzia is a sort of a fantasy with some technological sort of stuff mixed in. It's very 70s in that way. And in the first issue, which I do have, she has special thanks to Frank Thorne, who had, again, appeared with her in some of these sketches, some of the cosplay sketches. When she put out issue 2, Frank Thorne actually did the cover for issue 2, and it's this fantastic Red Sonja-esque black and white drawing with the characters from the books of Zomxanthia. That one's really hard to find. They have the same print run, but you can find issue 1, issue 2 with the Frank Thorne cover. I haven't been able to find. There's only 1,000 copies made. So that's something I've been searching for a while with no luck, because of this great Frank Thorne cover. But also, you know, it's just kind of in my wheelhouse. These sort of interesting obscurities and self-published comics is something I'm always really interested in. But I really love that Frank Thorne mentored and like a new generation of up-and-coming indie creators and female creators, empowering them and helping them with their comics careers. And just I think he has an interesting legacy as a result, because it's not just the comics, it's his work off the page in the greater comics community that I think will really be remembered for a long time. And yeah, so it's a sad day. We're losing a lot of the classic artists. You know, a lot of the golden age artists are gone, almost all of them, but now we're really losing a lot of the silver and even bronze age artists. And it's just sad to see all these great creators leave us, but it's also a good time to remember their great legacy and celebrate their work. So I just wanted to mention today, Frank Thorne, you will be missed. So that's it for this time. Next time we'll have what hopefully will be a more upbeat video. But thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you then.